Good morning. My name is Bonna Heinzen with the Cook County Farm Bureau, and I'm here with Kevin Simlow with the Illinois Farm Bureau. And we want to talk just for a few minutes about our 2022 legislative priorities. Kevin, if you could start us off by walking us through the policy process, where our policies are rooted.
I mean, that's the beautiful thing about this organization is the fact that our policies are a grassroots generated ideas that come from the membership, firsthand experience, practical things. It's interesting to talk to other people from outside the organization and how they're fascinated that we run this process. It's a legislative process, and it really shows the strength of our organization and how we're open to listening to the needs and desires of the membership. And by going through that policy process, which ideas are floated through the County Farm Bureau, and then the County Farm Bureau forwards those on, or at the annual meeting can bring them forward as amendments, or there's several other processes that work, but it really shows the importance of how members can just reach out to their leadership on the local level and influence that so that those policies are put together. The policy book is rather large. It's over 100 pages. There's lots of topics in it, but it gives the board of directors a lot of direction on the feelings of what the members are thinking and feeling on a specific issue. The board then takes those and then puts together looking at what's really happening in the real world, what we're anticipating in the upcoming session, what other groups are introducing, and then we take and we put our priorities together by the board of directors.
So am I correct to say that our policy process within Farm Bureau is a ongoing process, but the actual time frame runs typically for resolution submittals and everything runs about the calendar year?
That's exactly right. The policy development process kicks off usually right around the beginning of planting season. Ideas are collected. The resolutions committee meets a couple times throughout the year, usually once in June and then again in November. And then it culminates with the annual meeting in December for the Illinois Farm Bureau. It also then goes on, then the policies that are on the federal level. Right now, our staff is in Washington meeting with the other state staffs, talking about the resolutions that are going to be debated at the AFBF annual meeting in January. So it is a year-long process. It generally runs from about February through January. And that's the policy process. Yeah, it runs calendar-wise.
Wonderful. Now, we've just finished annual meeting and we have the new policies and everything. What process does the board go through to set our legislative priorities for the upcoming year?
Well, the board goes through a couple different things. One, they look at any new policies. They look at existing policy. We have a lot of policies out there that sometimes it takes several years to get an idea through the General Assembly. Probably the board also spends a lot of time looking at the political realities that we're facing in the upcoming session. For this session, we know it's going to be a redistricting year. Legislators are a little hesitant in wanting to take on too many controversial issues. They've condensed the spring session to start in January. They want to be done by the first week in April. So that's pretty condensed for a session. So the board looks at all of those things and things that we need to address. So it's a combination of several things, and policy does have a large part of that.
So once they approve the priorities, I know they're shared with the county farm bureaus, but for a staffing size or internal staffing that guides what our legislative team works on in Springfield, or what process do you go through for sponsors and everything?
Sure. We take those priorities and we do, like you indicated, it gets sent out to all the County Farm Bureau leadership and staff. We encourage each County Farm Bureau, when meeting with your legislators, to talk about these priorities, especially at this point in time of a General Assembly session. This one's going to be a little different, but generally they're kind of slow from January until about mid-March when the budget comes out. So this gives us a chance to lay the groundwork for those things. Some of the priorities are established around other issues we know are going to come at us, and they're kind of saying that these are things we're going to stand up for and work for and protect or to change. Some of them are specific legislative proposals that we will be seeking. We as staff have to go down to Springfield and get those put into legislative format. We go and we figure out our strategy and who we want to sponsor them, which committees is best, and then we go and reach out to those legislators, and then they actually introduce those. And that's that March timeframe is about when we start switching from the general topics to specific bill numbers, and that's kind of how we lay those things out. And that's just kind of the process we go through.
Wonderful. Let's talk about our priorities. What do you have first on your list as a legislative priority?
One of the biggest things that we continue to work on is making sure that the agricultural sales tax incentives for our sales tax in the state of Illinois for feed, seed, fertilizer, and equipment are maintained. If we look at the amount of revenue that the state thinks it doesn't collect from those taxes, they're pretty big numbers. About $435 million on average between all those combined. And when the state is in financial crisis, those are big numbers for them to try and just take away. And for a legislator, especially there in Cook County, that doesn't have a lot of people that are buying this equipment or seed, it doesn't have a huge impact on them. They don't see the importance of it. So we're really encouraging everyone to go out and when you talk to your legislators, bring that up and say, these are important. Here is why it's important. And we want to keep those because it has a huge impact on the bottom line. It's also a tax philosophy item. You don't want to tax these items up front and then we tax the retail good to the side. That's double taxation. It almost becomes somewhat of a pyramid tax or even a gross receipts tax where you're building on those things. So philosophically, that's one of the biggest issues we'll continue to work on. It's key to the bottom line. We've learned that by giving legislators real hand experience of what it means to an individual farmer, it really goes a long way when they can see what that bottom line is, and we can make that correlation between a farm and what that would mean if you had to pay these types of things if you in a small business or something that you have. So that works really well. Some of the other issues we'll be working on, we know that one of the larger growing businesses in Illinois is agritourism. And unfortunately, agritourism is really high on the liability that they have to pay for insurance for letting people on their property. And we also see that agritourism goes along with educational opportunities and allowing people to come on your property and for someone to be able to hold you accountable for every little thing, we just don't feel is fair. We believe that if you're willfully and wantonly not doing something or ignoring something that is truly a danger, yes, you should be liable for that. But if someone's walking down, they trip over the shoelace and fall and bump their nose, that's not your fault. We're looking for a limited liability immunity. I'll be really honest. The Illinois Trial Lawyers Association do not support that bill. We have been battling them for many years on this, plus other things along agriculture. And it's hard to overcome. Trial lawyers believe that they should be able to sue anybody for anything and let the courts decide. We're thinking, no, we need some of that. So to really help the agritourism business, we really want to see that legislation passed. We've made some inroads into some of the leaderships, especially in the Senate. We'll be concentrating there and working on that issue. Probably one of the other things that continues to grow is doesn't have a lot of impact with putting up wind farms or solar farms in Cook County, but overall is private property rights. We have seen a huge change in philosophy of legislators, urban legislators, not just in Cook and McCullough counties, but even in downstate areas, because we have so many legislators that don't come from rural backgrounds. And they don't understand the importance of the ability of a farmer to know the future and control the future of their land so they can do what they want. Allowing a private utility company to go on your property and do whatever they doggone want, however they want, just is not the way to do things. So we'll be continuing to fight that and educating educating legislators on the importance of that. This past energy bill was a prime example. There was one specific project where in nine counties, one company was given the ability to do that. It's a private company. Private companies should not have the ability to take another private person's land and use it for their profit. That's just not the way it should be. If they want to come onto your land and put up a transmission line or put in something along the easement or a pipeline, whatever that is, they should have to sit down and negotiate with the landowner so that you can work it out together. You need to go around the edge or you do it at a certain time and make sure that they protect the farmland so that you can continue to farm and operate. So that's a big issue and an educational issue that we're really asking members to talk to their legislators about. We're just seeing a huge change because people in the city, especially like in the city of Chicago, you've got a 25-foot by 110-foot lot. They run utilities around the edge because there's an easement. They think, well, that's my property. No, those easements were given. They don't understand that out in the rural area, there's not easements run across the middle of the field. So that's one area. And probably the last issue that we continue to work with, especially with urban legislators on the education side, is the importance of livestock and what that means. How much of our commodities go into livestock, what it means for the base of the commodity, how much is used, the importance of that, and that we do, livestock farmers have to follow Livestock Management Facilities Act, which is one of the most stringent construction laws that is out there for building livestock facilities. And what's amazing is that since the inception of the Livestock Management Facilities Act, our environmental problems have gone to almost nothing. The complaints under the LMFA and the Environmental Protection Act, which covers anything if there's any type of mishap or accident, we have very few claims because of our construction standards that have been done statewide. They're uniform across the state, and we've really, as an industry, addressed that and stepped up and done the right things to protect the environment while allowing farmers to still go out and raise livestock. We got to remember that there's a lot of corn and soybeans goes into feeding cattle and pigs, and we've got a little bit of poultry in the state of Illinois, and we export a lot of that. So that's just important to keep in mind, that we want to make sure that the Livestock Management Facilities Act stays the way it is and it works correctly and properly.
Wonderful.
There's several others, and you can jump on probably your website once those are published and look at those for more detail. And as time goes through, I encourage everybody to become an FBAC member, and you can get updates on QuickView to find out the progress of these things through our legislative reports that we do there.
Wonderful. And Kevin's right. A copy of the state legislative priorities will be available on the website. It's cookcfb.org. And as Kevin brought up, FBAC, if you would like to join FBAC, there's also a link to join FBAC. We value everybody's opinion. And Kevin, I want to thank you for taking time to sit down and talk about the legislative priorities, and wish you luck as session begins.
Thank you. I look forward to it. It's always a pleasure to go out and represent our membership and their views in Springfield. It's never a dull day, that's for sure, in Springfield.